Matisse is playing well. Defense still on a million, just static everywhere you go. I can barely watch him on my TV screen. My TV starts shaking and losing connection because he's on the screen.
Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind.
Good morning, everybody. This is episode, 37? Maybe 38. It could be 39. It could be any of the 30s from 35 to 40. I'm not sure, but it's in the 30s, high 30s. Episode of the 476ers podcast. We are going to talk about some basketball real quick. Two games have happened. Two scrimmages have happened. I figured I would do this now instead of waiting for our third scrimmage game, which is tomorrow. Because I don't know if I kind of have a feeling that possibly we could see a situation where Brett plays it almost like the NFL does when they do preseason games, and maybe there's not a whole lot of starter stuff happening. Plus, I don't know that Joel's going to play in the third game. He didn't play in game 2, so I'm kind of wondering if he's not going to play game 3 either. But there were some things that I saw in the first 2 games that I've been encouraged by, one, and, that we can glean from what we've seen so far. I mean, let's start with Toby. So game 1, Toby has been having some ups and downs over the first 2 games. But I will say I was terrified when I had first heard that he had not touched the basketball all quarantine. But he doesn't look that bad. He doesn't look as bad as you would think. And by and large, the entire NBA, it's actually been impressive. If you've been watching the NBA or the WNBA, which podcast will be coming soon on the WNBA, I want to get more acclimated with some of the players because I needed to find a team to root for, so I've decided to jump on this the Sabrina train, and I'm going to root for the New York Liberty, which pains me because I hate New York, but I'm going to root for the Liberty until Philadelphia gets a team. Vic, who you know from this podcast, roots for Seattle, so I will be constantly shitting on him every chance I get, even though Seattle is like the Warriors right now of the WNBA. The WNBA is mad competitive. If anyone tells you that the WNBA is not as good of a product or some dumb shit like that, they probably don't know much about basketball. They don't really understand the game of basketball to recognize that the game that's being played is being played at a high level. Still regardless, and because a lot of those dudes think that they could step on a court with a woman's basketball player and like beat them, and they would get washed. And I am here to tell you, I would watch that person talking shit, and I would get washed by any WNBA player, not even really competitively washed. I would get washed. Everyone who is not a pro or D1 probably basketball player is getting washed in most cases by a WNBA player. So unless you're like Pee Wee Kirkland, somebody who chose to sell drugs and ended up in jail, but by all accounts was one of the best basketball players in New York back in the day. That's a whole different story. I've completely gone off the ranch here. The point being, there will be a WNBA podcast coming soon. I'm rooting for the Liberty. I've decided to claim them as my team. But with that said, the point what I was bringing it up, the reason I was bringing it up was because if you've been paying attention to the scrimmages or the WNBA games, the basketball has been really, really good. Surprisingly good. Like very little rust. I would say in any of the players are showing. Most of the players are not showing any. Nurkic for the Blazers. You know what? Let's talk about the Sixers and then we'll take a quick spin around the league because there's a couple things I want to point out. So back to the Sixers. Toby's been playing well. He had a couple moments in the first game, optics-wise, that looked really fucking terrible. A couple of airball 3-pointers. One was blocked, but was just a bad shot. The type of shot where you don't have your timing down, where you think you have the space, because you haven't played competitive. You're not thinking this defender can block it. It was like one of those. If you've ever played with someone who's super athletic, for example, and you pump fake them and you think you're going to shoot over them and then they just kind of take off and block your shit, it was kind of like that. And then another one that was just a horrible shot. He just pump faked it, tried to draw contact, stepped through, shot it, and then airballed it. But besides that, has been playing well. He looks like he may have I don't know if he put on weight or he lost definition. I don't know. Maybe it's the haircut. I don't know. because his hair is a little bit longer. I'm not sure, but he hasn't looked bad though. Ben, obviously, we had the 2 3-pointers in game 1, and according to the reports, he had brought in a sports psychologist to, let me see if it pops up here on the news when we look at it. I don't want to spend too much time. It's not right here, but he had brought in a sports psychologist, which is fantastic. Honestly, more players probably need to do this. Yeah, more players probably need to bring in sports psychologists. You would be surprised. The problem is, and I've had this conversation previously. That there's a like a negative aspersions casted on men who admit to having mental health. It's not, the world is not super accepting about that by other men, really. And him bringing in like a sports therapist or whatever to get him to feel comfortable to shoot is important. That's like a big step. I think that'll be a bigger step than anything else, because we've seen him splashing threes in practice. And if a therapist can get him willing to shoot a three, then that should help. Again, I still stand by the fact that I would rather see him and Vic. Credit to Vic, because he's been saying this forever. He wants to see more exotic finishes from Ben. Like a la Kyrie. That not necessarily Kyrie Irving type finishes. No one finishes like Kyrie, but like Blake Griffin type finishes, powerful dunks or finishing through contact more often instead of that flip shot, which he tries to sometimes avoid contact. But and I would like him to see him have a floater. He actually attempted a floater in game 2. It wasn't the prettiest thing. He ended up banking it in. But I would like us to see a floater. Floaters are underutilized. People think that floaters are only for short players. But if guys are gonna back off of him, and he gets a chance to drive, if he just plants his 2 feet, if he plants both feet, comes to a jump stop 5 feet, 6 feet from the rim and just pops a floater, it's like a guaranteed bucket. It's a thing that Chris Paul has mastered throughout his career. D'Angelo Russell, master float game. So anyway, point being, Ben splashed 2 3-pointers. So that was good. No, he splashed 1. I'm sorry. He took 1, missed it, and then took another 1 and made it. So good for him. I'm glad to see him. He looks good. And I had mentioned on the previous podcast about him playing the 4, I think is probably going to be beneficial defensively, because then you can pick and choose moments where he can be aggressive. There was one thing game 2 that I saw against the Thunder that was really encouraging for me. I have a fucked up back, so not to compare me to Ben, I just know some of what it's like to move with a bad back. Now, I don't know anything about what it's like to be like an athlete like him. But there was a play where Chris Paul curled off of a screen, dribbling the ball. Screen was set by Steven Adams. Ben came, followed him around the screen and got pretty low to poke the ball away and force a turnover on Chris Paul. Chris Paul keeps that ball low. Chris Paul is also short. They say he's 6 feet, I think, is how he has listed, but I think most people think he's like 5'10", 5'11", kind of like the AI thing, where he's really, really short and keeps that dribble low and obviously has like a fantastic handle. Ben being 6'10", to get down there, coming off of a screen and poking that ball away, that's not easy to do. And someone with a damaged back for sure is not going to do that. And someone who's had a damaged back, usually they lose confidence in the ability to move in that way. So him doing that, to me, was like a little thing that I thought was a good sign. You know what I mean? I was like, this is, I think, a good sign. So happy to see that Ben's been playing well. Matisse is playing well. Defense still on a million, just static everywhere you go. I can barely watch him on my TV screen. My TV started shaking and losing connection because he's on the screen just causing havoc and being mad staticky. So Matisse is playing well. Alec Burks actually played well. Glenn Robinson looks like he found his stroke, even though he got injured game 2. Looks like he got a hit pointer. Which is a shitty. It's a shitty time for him to get a hit pointer, one, because they're all competing for these backup minutes. Him and Mike Scott looks like, especially, they're really competing. And hit pointers are the type of injuries that like you can't get comfortable with. And 2, it's like that type of deep muscle bruise with a possible tear that you don't know how severe it could be until it's healed. You know what I mean? So we'll see. He's day to day. But before I get to Joe, Al, shout out to Al. Listen, I'm gonna keep the same energy of when I'm shitting. Shout out to Keep the Same Energy. I talked about this on the podcast. Keep the Same Energy. Check out the other show that we do called Keep the Same Energy. And I'm about to keep the same energy right now. Al is balling. You know what I mean? Defensively is still, just not the same defender, but is splashing threes all over the court. That has been the craziest thing to me about our team right now is where we seem to be shooting better than we've shot all season, at least through these first two games, and with no pressure really mounting. So Al's been playing really, really well in a start duty yesterday. Played really, really well. Played really, really well game one. Coming behind Joe, and him and Joe spent some time, and we're going to talk about this in a minute. Him and Joe spent some time on the court together. Josh looks okay. He looks like his shot is still not quite. He's had an up and down season, and I'm expecting him to still have an up and down season throughout these two games. But at least defensively, he looks fine. Everybody athletically looks good. Everyone looks to be in shape. Everyone looks to be focused, dialed in, and prepared. You know what I mean? That's a great, great sign for us. And again, but credit to the NBA. Everyone in the NBA is kind of looking that way right now. So this is going to be competitive. Understand that. So that we can take, I think this means watching these scrimmages, at least so far, makes me more confident that we can remove the asterisk. It sucks that we don't have Kyrie. We don't have KD. Thank God Victor Oladipo came. That makes me happy to see, and he's looking pretty okay. And so it sucks that we're not going to have some players that come, and understandably so, that they didn't want to make it. And shout out to Kyrie, who again, keeping the same energy here, donated $1.5 million to the WNBA players funds for players who don't want to play. So like Elena Deladon, a big example, who chose not to play because she's immune compromised, and doesn't want to take a chance, and essentially forfeited her paycheck. We got to do better with the WNBA, but that'll come over time. She essentially had to forfeit her paycheck because she's not going to play. So there's been a fund set up for the players who chose not to play, and Kyrie donated $1.5 million. And if you don't know, there's a massive separation between the salaries, not just salaries, but the percentages, because that's what we talk about when we talk about WNBA and the NBA. We're talking about percentage. The WNBA should be getting the same percentage that the NBA players get. The Players Association and the NBA get, the WNBA should be getting that same percentage. They get a lesser percentage, and by lack of popularity and demand, get less money. They get less money still. So some of those players are only making like $100,000. You know what I mean? And a lot of them are forced to supplement that income by playing overseas. You know what I mean? So shout out to Kyrie. $1.5 million for a WNBA player is going to go a long way. That's probably going to cover a couple of salaries in the WNBA. So good for him, keeping that same energy. So anyway, back to what I was saying. What was I saying? Oh, players not coming. So with players not coming, I understand if you want to keep an asterisk on it, on the season, but watching the first two scrimmage games kind of makes me feel like there shouldn't be an asterisk. Players are playing. So who else is it? Shake is looking good. Shake splashing threes still. I mean, Shake is just looking good. Shake defensively taking charges. I think he's attempted to take 3 charges so far. One of them got called in his favor, and one of them was very close, and is locked in defensively. Shake is a player who I think, had he played with someone like a Devin Booker or James Harden, or a Kyrie or some of those guys, maybe would not be so locked in defensively, but being on the floor with 4 other guys that are locked in on defense. Again, Toby not being the best defender, but does give effort defensively, I think has done really, really well for Shake. His offense is good. He had one, it was not a good shot, but he made it, you know what I mean, where he actually got stifled. Who was defending him? I want to say it was Dort. Lugent's Dort was defending him from the Thunder, and he hit a little shake and bake spin move and drained it. It was a high level of difficulty jump shot. So he's looking good offensively. That makes me happy. Ben looks good. Looks like he's ready to rock and roll. As you can see, we lost to the Thunder, but Ben played fucking excellent. No Joe in the lineup, so Ben, it's obvious. One thing that we're seeing, so there's a couple things where I'm going to give some credit to Brett Brown right now. I credit all around. Joe looked good game one, game two. Of course, he gets injured. You could there like it. You could script it. You could script it. It's the most obvious script I've ever seen. I read the calf tightness thing, and I was like, this is the least surprising thing I've ever seen. This is why it's always going to be hard to believe that someone's in shape. That someone's in the best shape of his life, because calf tightness, and it's not to say that he's not in good shape and still he could still have this. So let me be clear. You know what I mean? What I'm really relying on is history here that tells us Joe is never really in shape. Getting calf tightness, I mean, if you're doing all the workouts that you would expect a basketball player to do and are playing in practice and playing hard, kind of seems to me like believe that you wouldn't feel calf tightness. You know what I mean? Like, I get calf tightness sometimes when I've been sedentary for a bit or haven't been doing basketball heavy workouts for a bit, and now all of a sudden my legs are not prepared for this level of intensity and this level of impact. But whatever, not to get negative. Joe played well game one, looked good, he did look good. I think I don't know if he looks like he's in his best shape. Maybe he does. I don't know. He looks leaner. I would maybe not leaner, but he looks more defined. I would say his musculature looks more defined. So yeah, that's with Joe. Joe looked fine. Who else is there? Norvell looked good. Norvell drained the 3-pointer with the shot clock. With the shot clock about to expire. His shot clock expiring, and I'm gonna be honest, the shot didn't look that bad. You know what I mean? His form didn't look bad, and he chased the rebound going away from the basket, did a hop, set his feet, elevated, and it looked good. You know what I mean? So I wonder if he's been working on that. I don't think we're going to see him shoot any threes during the bubble, but maybe next year if we still have him, I can see something like that happening. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the Sixers. Oh yeah, Brett Brown. So the lineups, man, he has really impressed me. Now, we don't know. This is scrimmages, and he's practicing, and maybe this is the energy he needs to take. The lineups he's putting out there are gold. You know what I mean? He's putting real gold out there in terms of lineups. Just really spreading the floor, tinkering around, having Ben play the 5 in certain situations, and just putting 4 shooters around them. When Al and Joe were in the game, it's like Al, Joe, Shake, Alec, and Glenn Robinson, or Furkan. Oh, Furkan's been playing well. Credit to Furkan. I'm sorry. Furkan's been playing well. Looks like he has his stroke. He needs a haircut desperately. Please get to the bubble. Barber is desperate for you, homie. Like, you need a haircut. You look like you were in the hole for the last month, and they just let you out. Like, you look like you've been quarantined. Please cut your hair. Dude, it's making me uncomfortable. Just cut it. You know what I mean? It just looks bad. It don't look good, bro. He's not even styling it. He's just waking up and showing up. He just shows up to the shit. And here's Furkan with this hair. So please get a haircut, Furkan. Other than that, though, he looks good. Well, you know what? If you're going to keep shooting this way, then fuck it. Just keep your hair. But he looks good. So yeah, you'll see lineups like Furkan, again, Shake, Furkan, Alec Burks, or Alec Burke, Furkan, and Glenn Robinson III, who again seems to have regained his stroke after getting it, but before getting injured, with Al and Joe spreading the floor in the exact way we need it to be spread if those 2 guys are going to be sharing the floor at all. And it's been working out really, really well. Again, lineups with Ben playing the center, Ben, Shake, Josh. But there was one lineup, I think it was Shake, Josh, Glenn Robinson, Toby, and Ben. And like, that's it. That's a lineup of death right there. You know what I mean? That's a fucking lineup of death. So credit to Brett. Rotations have been looking really, really good. Our offense also looks like it's operating a little bit differently. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm just positive. I feel more positive right now. And I don't know if I'm like, if I'm viewing it with rose-colored glasses, just looks like our offense is a little bit differently. It is running a little different, a little more pick and roll. Yeah, a little more pick and roll as opposed to constant dribble handoffs and stuff like that. I just see more pick and roll, pick and pops. Just a few things. It just looks different to me. It looks like it's operating differently. We're a little bit more aggressive, I would say, on offense. Getting out and running, it looks like that we have the green light to get out and run, which we've been doing the last couple of games. So credit to Brett. We look really, really good. You know what I mean? And I am really, really surprised by that. I'm surprised that the entire league looks this good, but I am super duper surprised that the Sixers look like this. I mean, if this is what we're expecting to see during the bubble game, during the seeding games, I should say, during those 8 games, I would be very worried if I was the rest of the league. You know what I mean? Watching us play, I would be very worried. Now, I'm going to get to a couple notes in a second about a couple of other players. But yeah, the Sixers look they look fantastic. A couple other notes. Yusuf Nurkic from the Blazers, man, he looks the Blazers, and I had been thinking about this for a while. And actually, I'm sorry. First, I have to apologize because I forgot to mention the Blazers in the last podcast, talking about that 8th seed, the race between the Pelicans, Kings, and Grizzlies. The Blazers are also racing for that 8th seed, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, you're talking about Dame, CJ. CJ looks like he put on some weight a little bit. He looks a little thick right now. He's looking a little thickish, but he's balling. So what are you going to say? One of their biggest problems was they didn't have any depth and size. You know what I mean? Losing Zach Collins, losing Nurkic hurt them. They lost Al-Farouq Aminu. They lost Mo Harkless over the offseason. And those were 2 pretty big losses for them. You know what I mean? Mo like, I don't know what they were thinking with losing them, but those were big losses. Zach Collins looks excellent. He's been working on his post moves. He hit a pretty significant fadeaway yesterday on Serge. I mean, backed him down, a little shimmy, dream shake, and fadeaway. And Serge is one of the better big men defenders, one of the better post defenders. We've seen him stifle Joel a time, like here and there. We've seen him stifle Joe. And Zach looks polished. He looks spry defensively. A couple plays where he was guarding either a perimeter player or where he was guarding, where he was guarding Pascal Siakam and sniffed out that spin. Pascal's spin is deadly. My man could spin. He could spin a hurricane out of the shores of Florida. You know what I mean? It's going to be hurricane season when they're playing in the playoffs. But Pascal down there, the way he can just spin the opposite direction, it's gonna cover Florida. Florida's gonna be good as long as Pascal is in the playoffs. Because my man's spin is vicious. He could spin dry clothes just easily just by his existence. But a couple times that Zach snuffed out that spin, I mean, did a good job. A couple times he got hit with it. Again, this man spins like a hurricane. It's impossible. You can only hope to contain the spin. You know what I mean? But Zach looks good. And Nurkic was good. Splashing 3-pointers one, which is the thing he was not necessarily doing. I think everyone knew he could shoot, but he really wasn't shooting. He's splashing 3-pointers. He looks good in the post, looks strong, as we expect him to look. I mean, he set screens like very few players set screens in the NBA. Like bone-crushing, collapsing, never scared screens. You know what I mean? Bone crusher, never scared. It's a bar. Bone-crushing, never scared screens that crush humans. You know, he screens people out of existence. You know what I mean? And he looks way better defensively than we've seen him look. I'm going to be honest with you. I never considered him a rim protector, and yesterday he had a few impressive blocks. I mean, was just active, just looks active right now. You know what I mean? He looks like someone who he looks like the person that the Nuggets quit on and now has a chip on his shoulder. Because if you don't remember, it was Nurkic and Jokic. You know what I mean? And they were trying to play him together. It was never going to work. And they ended up having to pick one. They shipped Nurk off, kept Joker, rightfully so. But Nurk now looks like he's ready to ascend or to say, listen, you know what I mean? You're going to regret. I understand why, but you're going to regret it. So he looks good. I would be very worried about this Blazers team. Carmelo's back to the 3, which I don't necessarily like. I think he should be a 4. But with that said, he lost some weight coming into the bubble. He looks good. Dame suffered, I think he had some foot inflammation, so he didn't play in yesterday's game, but it didn't really matter. They look good. I mean, and it was, if you got a chance to watch that game yesterday, Blazers, Raptors, or if you get a chance to watch it later, it was a pretty chippy, competitive game. There was a time when Nurk and Serge got into it, a play where CJ scored on Kyle Lowry. Well, Kyle Lowry was following him around his screen, and CJ did the like kind of stop and elevate thing, and they called a foul, and CJ was screaming and one at him. Like it had some. The players were taking this seriously. I promise you, the players are taking this fucking seriously. I wouldn't be surprised if like Kyrie, KD may later regret not coming just to see how players are taking this serious. LeBron chasing balls out of bounds, and Nurkic had a play where he blocked the shot, chased the ball, and threw it off a surge and dove out of bounds. Players, this is a scrimmage, and players are competitive. They give a fuck. They're here to play. Victor Oladipo looks good. He looks like he may be regaining a semblance of his three-point shot. Look, I don't want the Pacers to be good for selfish reasons, obviously, because we're Sixers fans. But I think it would be, as an NBA fan, it would be really, really dope to see Malcolm Brogdon and Oladipo kind of figure out them playing together. Because if they figure that out, they're kind of up there in terms of the best 1 and 2 combo in the league. You know what I mean? It's like it's Steph, Clay, Dame, CJ, Wall, and Beal, and then it would probably be right there. Would be Malcolm and I would say right there is probably going to be Malcolm and Victor Oladipo. You know what I mean? Unless because Wes Matthews plays the 2 on the Bucks. I'm sorry, Russ and James Harden has to be there. Chris Paul and SGA is up there somewhere. But the point being, these 2 guys are in this conversation somewhere. You know what I mean? They're going to be in that conversation if they can kind of figure that out. And Kemba and whoever is playing the 2 for the Celtics, whether it's Tatum or whether it's Jalen, are going to be up there. Point being, again, they're going to be up there. They're going to cause noise if they can figure it out. Again, sucks for us, but just in light of the NBA, I think it's like a great thing, especially because the Pacers are always a team that you would almost compare the Pacers and say that they're Spurs East almost. They don't spend a lot of time down. They just do their best job scouting, taking advantage of trades. That Victor Oladipo trade, I mean, they gave up jack shit to get Oladipo. You know what I mean? And it was a great trade for them. It really, really worked out for them. So, and went to University of Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. So, again, not to get too far off topic, Oladipo looks good as a point. Bucks look like they're going to be fine. Raptors look locked in. The Raptors are locked the fuck in. You know what I mean? They are not going to be an easy out for anybody. If you told me in 3 months that the Raptors went to the finals in the East, I don't know if I would be surprised necessarily. I would be a little bit surprised, but it would be like, oh, well, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Type moment. The Raptors look good. Celtics look fine, which fucking sucks. The Wizards look crazy, fun to watch still. One of the better offenses in the league. Haven't seen John Wall yet. I don't know what the deal is with John Wall. He is supposed to play. I don't know if maybe I just haven't been paying attention and he did play. I haven't seen too much Wizards. I just know that they've been fun, judging by the scores and everything I know about them. I mean, they were one of the highest. They have one of the most efficient offenses in the NBA, but they just have the worst defense in the NBA. So that's going to be interesting. The Magic are just boring as fuck. But Mo Bamba has put on weight. I got to give it to him. Listen, I don't know what diet Mo Bamba's on. My man has put on like 25 pounds of muscle. I don't know if that happened before in the offseason, before the season started, or if this really happened over quarantine, but he looks fucking different. You know what I mean? Like I didn't recognize him when I first saw him. So the Magic, they're not going to make a lot of noise. Well, unless Mo can be something special, but Mo is their 5. I mean, they have a little bit of a logjam. They have all these long guys. You know what I mean? So I don't know what they're going to do. The Nuggets, Jokic looks good, lost weight. The Nuggets look good. Bol looks fucking really, really good. People were trying to pour water on that fire the other day. Like, oh, he had a whatever for whatever. performance, like a low efficiency performance and turnovers. But I was like, man, stop bitching. One, this dude is a rookie, is getting a chance to play, and is looking different. He is incredibly long. I mean, they have a lineup out there. They can put out this crazy lineup that's like Jeremy Grant, Bol, Joker, Jamal Murray, who's a bigger point guard, and I don't know, anyone at the two. Maybe you just put Gary Harris or whoever. And it's this super fucking long, awkward lineup, and Bol can shoot, he can handle, he can play defense. You know what I mean? And essentially what teams in the NBA have been trying to, the way that teams have been trying to replicate the Warriors, it's oftentimes overlooked. People think that the replication of the Warriors is shooting, which, yeah, sure. But you can't replicate Steph. You can't replicate Clay. Like, you can't replicate those guys. What teams are actually understanding and doing is they're trying to replicate the playmakers, saying, let's get a lot of playmakers on the floor, because it just can't go bad if you have guys who can make plays. High IQ, can handle, pass, can shoot, right? So you get 5 of those guys, and all of a sudden you're in good shape. So the Nuggets look good. Lakers look like they're ready to listen. LeBron is locked in. You know what I mean? He knows the importance of this. He is treating it with that importance. There is people sometimes can misconstrue me as like a LeBron hater a little bit, but and I'm not. I promise you, I'm not. But there is really something like inspiring to see somebody of his stature say he's going to do a thing and then go do it the best. You know what I mean? Like so many people talk and say they're going to do something and whatever. Kanye, right? Not to pile on Kanye, my man every year is going to release an album this day and it doesn't come out and we don't know what's happening. LeBron, if he says he's doing a fucking thing, that thing is getting the fuck done. And he looks locked in. He looks locked in. The Clippers look locked in. Paul George looked best in game 1 of that scrimmage. He looked as good as he's looked all year. He hasn't looked great this year. You know what I mean? He's had some ups and downs, but game 1, boy, he looked like Paul George again. So they look like they're ready. The Rockets, I don't know what to say about the Rockets. James lost weight. There was a picture of James. I mean, he looked like he was coming down Mount Sinai. He looked like he had seen the burning bush. You know what I mean? But now I see him. He looks like he put on more weight. And his hair is a mess. His hairline, man, poor James. He needs to go bald and keep the beard. I think that's the vibe he needs to shoot for, because his hairline's a fucking mess. It's not good. Poor guy. But Russ looks good. I mean, they look like the Rockets. I'm not buying them. You know what I mean? I'm not buying them. I don't necessarily. I think they had momentum. That they look like they lost momentum, at least from the scrimmage. Now, all that to say, it doesn't matter. James last night scored 32. It's a scrimmage game. My man scored 32. So, who knows, right? I'm not really saying anything. I don't know. I get this weird feeling when I'm watching them, and it's just not. I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't like the feeling I'm getting when I'm watching them right now, and I can't put my finger on it. I just don't like it. The Mavericks. That's the other one, bro. Luka somehow has gotten better. He has somehow taken another step. And I'm not exactly how he did it. He looks a tick more explosive, a tick quicker. Maybe it's the tan. He got some more melanin in his skin, was in the sun, and my man is just exploding all over the place. You know what I mean? Pause. But he looks good, man. I don't know what to say. Like, he looks really, really good. He just looks somehow better. If you can even imagine that he got better, he looks better. Seth Curry, bro, Seth. Yo, shout out to Seth. He is the best worst brother in NBA history. Robin Lopez and Brooke, even though now we can't tell who's better, Brooke, don't undersell Brooke. Brooke had a very good career on the Nets. He was, almost a 2010 guy for a long time, was on a couple All-Star teams, became Splash Mountain. Robin is really a serviceable backup is what he is. And I know Robin's become famous for his own thing, and he's become a really good version of who he could be. So good for him. Blake Griffin's brother, who no one remembers, that man's disappeared. All the Plumleys suck. None of them are really good. None of them are good necessarily. Who else is there? What other brothers can I think of here? Yeah, I can't. I know I'm definitely missing some brothers here, but the Holiday brothers, Drew, and the Drew is the best of them though. So that's not even really they have the Aaron Holiday and Justin Holiday have become really good pros though. But Seth Curry leads the league in 3-point percentage. And every time, it just seems every year he's adding things to his game. Yesterday, he hit was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. He hit a couple off the dribble jumps, pull-up jump shots, drains everything. When he's on the court with Luka, I mean, you need to have two people on him almost at all times. Like you can't leave Luka, but you really you can't leave Seth. That man is a bucket right now. Good for him. He, is smaller than Steph, so he can't provide the same defense. People shit on Steph's defense because they don't know shit about basketball. They don't understand that Steph happens to be the worst when they go into their lineup of death. Well, back in the day, he was the worst defender on the court with Clay, who was an all NBA defender. Draymond, Defensive Player of the Year. Andre Iguodala, Hall of Fame level defensive player. Andrew Bogut, a very, very good defensive backup, big man. Yeah, they were searching out Steph. Steph was the one that they would seek out on the perimeter, but Steph holds his own on defense. So you can just watch. You can find clips of it on like YouTube and see. Seth is undersized, which makes it a little bit harder for him to defend because Steph is a big point guard. You know what I mean? Not a big point guard, but he is a good sized point guard. Seth is undersized, but man, that boy can shoot. Tim Hardaway Jr. also became a good pro, good defender. That team is going to be a problem. KP is flashing. He looks good. That team is definitely a team to watch in the West. Not to say that they're going to go and beat the Lakers, but they just look good. The Suns, they look pretty good right now. DeAndre Ayton looks like he's taken I want to say take a leap. All year he's been looking better defensively. I would say as the year's been going along, he's been getting better defensively, and it looks like that trend has continued over the pandemic somehow. He looks pretty good on defense still. The Grizzlies, we blew them out, but what I'm not to worry about. We'll see. It's good. They got a tough schedule. It's going to be a hard road for them, and if the Blazers are going to continue looking as good as they look, I don't know if they're going to be able to hold on to that spot. Now, the thing is, the Blazers, I think, have to win out. They're going to have to probably win all 8 games, and I don't know if that's likely, but I wouldn't put it past to put it past Dame. And I could imagine the Lakers would beat the Blazers. Let's be clear. But the Blazers have the size to compete with the Lakers. You know what I mean? You're going to put out AD and JaVale McGee. My starting lineup is going to have Zach Collins and Yusuf Nurkic. And you're going to bring Dwight Howard off the bench, and we're bringing Hassan Whiteside off the bench. They have the size to compete. So and they have the firepower. Don't get it fucked up. They have the firepower. You know what I mean? The Blazers talking 3-pointers, and the Lakers talking 2-pointers. So just keep that in mind. It would be an interesting series, is all I'm saying. The Lakers are going to win, but I think it'd be interesting. Zion will be ready. So Zion had to leave. He came back. He'll be ready for opening day. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he had to be quarantined for 4 days. I think he produced 2 negative results straight, and now he has to be quarantined for 4 days, something like that. It seems like a punishment. Lou is going to miss 2 games, I think, because he went to Magic City to get wings, apparently, which shout out to him. I actually believe him. I know we're all making jokes about, Lou went to Magic City to get wings, but if you know Lou Williams' life, he's not that impressed with strippers. You know what I mean? I really believe he went to Magic City to get wings. You know what I mean? What it is you end up having dudes with like corny dude. And I talk about this. I'm like beating a dead horse about corny dudes in the Tory Lane situation too. But like corny dudes can't imagine that somebody would go somewhere for not the reason that you think they went there for. I would not. I really would. If he went there for strippers, whatever. But if he didn't go there for strippers, I am 100% willing to take Lou Williams' word on it. Again, if you know his life and his personal life, strippers are not the best thing. It's, you know what I mean? His normal day-to-day life is way more impressive than any strip club. So, but with that said, he has to be quarantined. So Yeah, I think that's it, man. I see. Look at that. I did that off the top of my head. Understand? I am a basketball fucking fanatic, and I did this all off the top of my dome. So show your boy the love. You know what I mean? Subscribe, follow. I think we're done. I can't think of anything else that I wanted to talk about here. Anything sticking out? We talked about the Raptors. The Heat. We'll see. The Heat look fine right now. The Heat look fine. Again, they were falling apart at the end of the season. I don't know where they're going to pick up yet. So I don't have much to say about the Heat. The Nets, who cares? Who gives a fuck about the Nets? Who cares right now? But they don't have what it takes to beat anybody. Once Kyrie dropped out, the NBA should have found a reason. Just found an excuse like, oh, we made a mistake in what we were thinking. That's you're not even really the 8th seed. Oh, you got to go. Even though I think they're the 7th seed. Well, I might be tripping. I think we talked about everything. So that's it. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the YouTube. Hey, wash your stupid fucking hands. Wear a stupid fucking mask. Cover your filthy mouth. Cover your filthy mouth. Wear a mask. Make everyone happy. Right? That's the other thing. Make everyone comfortable. Make everyone happy. Wear a mask. Cover your hands. Wash your hands. Wash your face. Cover your ugly face. Yeah, and you know what? As a bonus, actually, you know what? That's it. Wash your hands, and we're gonna keep the same energy after this. So wash your hands. Do that. Everyone, goodbye. Stay safe out there. Subscribe to the channel so you can see the keep the same energy theory, which is a podcast / YouTube show that I've launched, really with Fred, but I've been doing alone, and other people will be on it too. I think everything is pretty much going to go under there, where we keep the same energy about topics, and I'm going to go keep the same energy about some sports topics right after I'm done recording this. And yeah, subscribe. Show your boy some love. I'm trying to do this for money and nothing else. You know what I mean? Fuck passion. I want money for this. No, I'm joking. Doing this for passion. Also money one day. And that's it. Everyone take care.
Justice for the blind. Just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind. Used to come